Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video I'm gonna do a good old tag video. You guys know I love doing that and I saw a new one. I'm sure you've seen other creators do this one, but it's called the Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. So we're gonna get into all of that. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bri and I'm just a crazy lover of all things beauty, and I like to post a lot of fun, colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot on indie makeup, so if that is what you're into, then please consider hitting that subscribe button and joining this little family. But with that being said, let's get into this video. So I am pumped. I love tag videos. I love watching them. I find them so interesting and I love having a reason to film one myself. So I was watching Angelica Nicovis or Nicovis. I don't know exactly how to say her last name, but I love her channel. I've mentioned her so many times, but I was watching her and I was like, man, these questions are interesting. I like her responses. And then it led me to go and check out the original creator, which her channel is called Chic Geek, and she seems super cool. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to subscribe because I'm really feeling her vibe and her energy. And I thought her questions were so good. So I will make sure to link Angelica's video as well as Chic Geek's channel so you guys can check out their videos as well. But I am going to have all the questions pop up on the screen and then, show you the corresponding product with it. And everything will also be linked in the description. But before we get into the tag, in case you're curious about this eye look, which I think is very, very beautiful. I did film this with the Into the Night palette from Matrix. I did a whole little get ready with me, just catching you guys up about what's going on with my life. So if you're curious about that, definitely check it out. I'll link it below, put it up in the corner because that one should already be up before this one. I think it will be. Anyways, let's get into this tag. So the first question is a palette you wore for a special occasion. And I was able to think of this really quickly, and it's this one right here, the Tiny Marvels palette. This was a collab with Sydney Grace and Mel Thompson. It also has sentimental value to me and a lot of good memories. But I actually wore this to my sister's wedding, which was amazing. It was in Spokane, Washington. And I created just the most beautiful look with this. I used this shade and some of the browns and this fire butt shade, which is my favorite one in here. This is by far my most favorite palette from Sydney Grace. The quality is excellent. The shimmers are beautiful. And I had a greeny dress like this, so it matched my dress perfectly because I was also a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding, and it was so special. And Washington was such a magical place, and my sister's wife and her family are so sweet, and I have just the best sister-in-law. I am so lucky. So this makes me think of that experience. And then we have the next question, which is a palette you love but it's repetitive. Now, I think this is a really good quality palette and I love this brand, but I do feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities in this palette because there's a lot of repetitive shades in here. I could have mentioned quite a few palettes in my collection, but this is the one that came to me as soon as I thought about it, and that is the Gemini 2 palette from Melt. I really, really like Melt's formula. I love their mattes because they're so pigmented, but I feel like there was just so much repeats in this palette. Even though it's not a huge palette, I just felt like this whole section was just so repetitive. These three shades, they all look the same on the eyes, which is totally crazy to me. Even this one, it's slightly darker. And then these two, they're slightly different undertones. This is a little bit more purpley undertone to it, and this is more reddy. They feel kind of blended out. They could almost translate the same on the eyes. And I felt like the looks I got either was only green or these reddy berry shades. I could get nothing else out of this. So I felt like they could have mixed the shades up. And the palette is not super big, so to have that many repetitive shades in here just made it not the perfect color story for me, and wishing that there was more because they could have done a lot more. They could have threw in a lavender in here. They could have threw in some lighter shimmers, maybe even a murky yellow shade. A purple, something else could have been mixed in here to make a beautiful, more berry green mixed palette. Then the next question is a palette you got your money's worth, and this is it right here. This is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. I know I've mentioned this many times on my channel. It's probably one of my most used palettes in my collection, and it was on the pricier side. I think this might have been like the $100 range or like $129, and I definitely got my money's worth because I love this. I've traveled with it. I use it every time, like in the fall. I've used it for Shop My Stash. I just pull this out all the time because I love these kind of tones. I love the quality in here. I love that there's so many green, grungy tones. We got some warm tones. We got darker tones. I love the cream to powder formula from Natasha Denona, and I've just always enjoyed this palette, and I love when fall comes around because I get so excited to pull this. I've definitely gotten every penny out of this palette, and it is an expensive one, so I'm glad I use this as much as I do. Then the next question is a palette that is an amazing deal, and I thought of this instantly because it's so affordable, but it's so good. This is the by Beauty Bay Earthy Palette. Now they had a bunch of different color stories. They had like a more berry one, which I have that one, as well as their, I think it was the midnight one. That one has blues and purples in it, but this is my favorite one because it's full of greens. And I think these were, am I wrong, $11? They were either $11 or $9, and Beauty Bay's like brand always goes on sale, so you could get this even cheaper. And the quality is so good in here. Like the mattes are amazing. The lighter shades are pigmented. And I feel like this is a well-rounded palette for being just an all green palette because it has like cool tone greens. We have some pastel-y minty shades, this kind of grayish green. Then we also have like these warm tone murky greens. So even though this is like an all green palette, I feel like I was able to go different directions. I could go super light and do like a very minty look, but then I could go very grungy, or I could go very cool tone. And I just thought this was actually a pretty good green palette. Like you got a lot of options, and it was so affordable and high quality. Like I think all of the palettes in that range was a really good deal. Now they had one that was even bigger than this, and to me that would have been like an overly repetitive palette. But I think the 16 pan, and I think they had 9 pan ones, are like perfect color stories and such good deals. Then the next question is a quad you love and wish was a larger palette. And I don't have a lot of quads in my collection. I feel like I've decluttered a lot of them, but I was looking through everything I had and I was like, you know what? This is one I would like to make bigger. This is the Unearthly Cosmetics Creepy Crawly Palette. This was part of their Halloween mystery box, which I actually just posted a video on their summer mystery boxes if you want to check that out. The products were really good. But this one is a green color story. You guys know I love me my greens. I'm a green girl, green clothes, green everything. So this one, I feel like you could go so many directions with this. You could throw in some minty pastels. We could get some grungy greens. We could add some browns, some like mid-tone shimmers, like a dark shimmer like this if you wanted to go really smoky, a taupe, because it has a little bit of cool tone greens and then it has some warm tone greens. So I feel like you could add so much and expand this out to be a beautiful grungy dream kind of palette. So I really could see so many ways you could go with this, and I would love for it to be a bigger one because these are my tones right here. Anyways, that is a quad I think could be a bigger palette and would be absolutely stunning. They do have a Halloween mystery box coming out again, which I saw the spoiler. It's a bigger palette, so maybe I need to go purchase that. I haven't actually picked it up. Actually, it might already be sold out at this point. Then the next question is a palette you love the quality of the eyeshadows but hate the packaging. And I have to sit here and think about it because pretty much all the palettes I have, I don't mind the packaging on any of them. Like, I don't typically buy palettes that look ugly on the outside, so it was kind of hard for me to figure out what to say for this question. But then I kept thinking, and I remember there was a palette in my collection that I felt the quality wasn't there and wasn't my favorite in terms of that. Not the appearance of it, but it's more like the quality. And that is this Dragon Fruit palette. This was a collab with Clionadh and Emily Violet Marie. The shadows in here are stunning. It's an all shimmer palette, and they're a beautiful high quality shimmer formula. But this packaging to me just feels cheap. I'm not a big fan of plastic packaging on palettes. I prefer cardboard packaging. I just feel like they're more reliable, and things like this tend to break easily, which is exactly what happened to this palette. And I'm not the most like gentle person with my products, but I mean, it shouldn't break this easy. I don't even think I really did anything for it to crack like that. But you see, it's coming apart, and it's also starting to crack on this side too, which I hate. I think I have like a ColourPop palette that's also doing that. So I just wish like brands wouldn't do this. Like, I'm just not a fan. I feel like overall it looks cheap, and they tend to just break really easy. So I really am not a fan of this packaging, but it's still cute. It's not ugly. It's just breaking down, and the quality is not the best. Going on to the next question was, show your dream palette with singles. And I had a hard time figuring this out because I do have singles in my collection, but they're mainly shimmers. And of course, I wouldn't mind having an all shimmer palette, but if I was going to create a true dream palette, it would include matte. So I figured I would just show you guys 2 palettes that I customized off a brand's website, like based on what singles they had, and made like a color story that I really love. So I feel like these kind of come close. I feel like there are shades that I would add, but I think this is the closest I could get to showing you guys like my dream kind of color story. So I have this one from Lethal that I did a custom palette for, and I feel like this is like a grungy dream for me because it has these beautiful greens. Like I said, any dream palette of mine would be heavy on the greens, and then it had like this beautiful matte black, because I feel like my dream palette would have a matte black and a matte white to be like perfect. I mean, this one doesn't include a matte white, but I was limited in how many like shades I could do because I did like a 12 pan palette. I feel like my perfect size palette would be a 16 pan palette. But these are the kind of colors that would be in there. I have some dual chromes in here. I have these beautiful like bluey purples, because I love blue and purples. So, I mean, I feel like this is like a perfect grungy palette for me, and I can mix all of these together. Then the other custom palette that I created was from We Makeup, which is a brand I don't hear about very much anymore. I'm not sure what's going on with the brand, but they make really, really high quality products as well. But here's my custom palette from them. You see the recurring theme here. I have to have greens. I have to have grungy greens. I always throw in some purple, some like blue or tealy shades, and then some like lighter shades. I like to have depth. This is a 15 pan palette. I mean, I would love to have had a matte black and matte white. Like I said, I love having that in a palette, but overall this is like general direction. I guess I like smoky grunge is what I like, but I do also like color. Maybe I would need an even bigger palette. Maybe I would need like a 30 pan palette because there's so many colors I love. I just wouldn't want it to be repetitive. But this is generally like the kind of colors that I gravitate to the most. Then the next question is a large palette you wish was smaller. And I was going through all like my big palettes that have tons of shades in it, and I couldn't figure out which one. I was like, I don't know if they necessarily need to be smaller. But then I stopped myself and I remembered there is a brand that I always talk about their palettes being too big every time I do a review on a product from them, and that is Give Me Glow. Every single palette they have is unnecessarily big in my opinion because they use the biggest eyeshadow pans. Like, this is the Bad Witch Club palette. Like, look how big they are. Their sizes of blushes, and all of their palettes are like that, from their 6 pan palettes to their 12 pan palettes. And I don't know if they have smaller palettes, but look at the Pastel Dreams palette. Doesn't need to be this big. I really don't think so. And they have 12 like shades in it, but it's like bigger than this Cosmic Brushes one, the Delicious Delights. I think this one has 20 shades in it. It's slightly bigger than it, and this has 12 shades and this has 20. I'd rather have smaller pans and more color options, or just make smaller pans and make a more compact palette. I mean, you get so much product, but I just will never get through these shadows like that. I mean, if you're a person that uses this 1 or 2 palettes in your collection, then maybe you'd get through something like this and appreciate it being this big. But because I have a big collection, I don't really need palettes to have this big of pans in them. So all of Give Me Glow palettes are like this. Even their square ones, like their pumpkin one that I have, has huge squares in it. Like they just give so much product. It's just crazy to me. So all of their palettes are just so huge. Like, does a 12-pan palette really need to be that big? And I always talk about that in any Give Me Glow review that I do. Then going on to the next question, which is an eyeshadow palette you wish had a matching face palette. And I was like, ooh, this is a very interesting question, a tricky one, because I had to really go through my collection and think about it. And then I found the perfect one. I was like, that's it. That is it right there. It is the Planet Spirit palette from Unearthly. This is a collab with Miss Batty Bean, and this is such a fun, very colorful, very bright palette. And I love bright blushes, okay? I love a bright pink, a bright like orange like this. I love a reddy blush. I love a purpley blush. Maybe not necessarily a greeny blush, but I would even love a yellowy blush. So I was like, I could see a lot of these being gorgeous blushes. Like this one, this one, this one, this one. Oh my God, it would be gorgeous. And then something like yellowy, that would be like a matte version of this, would be absolutely stunning in my opinion. I love bright, fun cheeks. I love my cheeks to pop. I don't mind living my best clown life, but I think this colors would be such a beautiful cheek palette. I can just see it. Even this would probably be a beautiful highlighter. Even this would be a beautiful highlighter, like a big face palette with these colors in it. You don't even have to really do different colors. Like you just pull these out, make them in blush size pans, and I would be a happy camper. I mean, honestly, I could probably use these as blushes, but overall, eyeshadow palettes tend to be very pigmented, so you have to go in with a light hand. But I mean, these color options would be beautiful in a cheek palette. Oh, that would make my heart so happy. I thought I was at the last question, but I realized I accidentally skipped one. But it's palettes you like to combine together. And there's no two palettes or anything that I combine together all the time, but there are two palettes that I pair with other palettes all the time as like companion palettes, and that is the All I Ever Wanted palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the volume 2 one. This is an all shimmer palette. I love pairing this with all matte palettes or very matte heavy palettes. Like I pair these with the Blend Bunny Cosmetics ones all the time, like all of the Blend Bunny ones that I have, but I did pull out like the Surge palette. I love pairing these together, like they're a match made in heaven. And all of the Blend Bunny palettes are perfect to go with this one. And I even have an all matte one from Unearthly as well, or the all matte one I have from It's About Cosmetics. Like I pull this in a lot with other palettes, as well as this one from Danessa Myricks. This is the Lightwork volume, is it 5 or 4? Transcendence palette. I absolutely adore this palette. I feel like this is another palette I've gotten my money's worth, but full of multi-chromes and sparkly shades, some cool liners, some flaky shades. This one I've paired with a lot of Blend Bunny palettes as well. Like look at that. These would pair so beautiful together. I've paired it with the more muted palette that they have from them. Is it the Dolled Up palette? All Done Up palette. Oh my god, I can't remember the names. But this would also pair with like their Allure palette. This is another one I've pulled in with a lot of other palettes in my collection. I feel like these, if I'm looking for special shimmers and I just can't find it in the palette I'm using, I will pull for either one of these. So that was all the questions for this tag video. I found this video so much fun to film. I love having a reason to go through my palette collection, and these questions really made me think hard, and they were just so different and interesting because I don't think I've done any other tag where they asked these kind of questions when it came to palettes. But honestly, I would love to hear what your guys' responses would be to these questions in the comments below. Let me know how you guys would answer any of these questions, or if you are a content creator and you do YouTube videos, then please tag me in your video if you do end up doing this tag, because I would love to watch it. Also, if you are new here and you enjoy this video, you like a lot of fun and colorful makeup content, and you like tag videos and all that fun stuff, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I'd love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. I will have all the palettes linked that I mentioned today, as well as the questions, as well as Angelica and Chic Geek's videos, so you can check them out as well. And I will have my makeup link, like what is on my face, foundation, and all that good stuff. Like I said, the video where I did this makeup will be linked as well in case you want to see it in action. And I will have my contact and my social media platforms linked. I'm also on Instagram as Brici Lifestyle and Brici_beauty. So if you want to join my Instagram fam, I would really, really love that. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for being here, being amazing. I just appreciate you guys all so much. And I just hope all of you are doing well wherever you are in the world. And I'm just sending you guys so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.